SIDS with asthma. It was so bad. It was so bad.
You know, I'm surprised I haven't had anything yet this winter,
Don't
but
tell.
I'm sure
Don't tell.
it'll come, it'll come. Sorry, Nadia, but usual thing, right? Okay. Right.
if I can get everybody to go ahead and take a seat, we'll get started momentarily. Thanks. Okay, thank you very much. We're going to go ahead and get started. If you can get yourself situated, because we want to try to stay on time. We have an hour and 30 minutes for this SIDS Ministerial. Excellencies, distinguished guests, welcome to this Ministerial on the Investment Path Partnerships for the Energy Transition. My name is John Defterius. I'm a board member for Sustainable Energy for All based in Vienna, also a senior fellow for the World Economic Forum in the Center for Energy and Materials. And I had the great pleasure of covering energy for 3 decades, including my last 20 years at CNN. It is a great pleasure to moderate this session convened under the SIDS Lighthouses Initiative to highlight practical approaches, successful experiences, and clear opportunities for collaboration that can help SIDS translate ambition into delivery and to do so at scale. I'm not trying to be cute here, but this is your moment in the sun. Through ARENA and the COP process, global awareness of small island developing states has never been higher, and innovation is driving that awareness. This session will build on that momentum. I think the last 5 years in particular has differentiated the SIDS from the others in the renewable sector. By way of housekeeping, the session will run for 90 minutes, and I kindly urge our distinguished speakers to limit their interventions to no more than 3 minutes. So keep it in mind. I'm going to be roaming around in this horseshoe structure to try to do so. We would like to keep this schedule on time and to also foster dialogue. Some of you have formal remarks, that's absolutely fine, but if you wanted to condense those remarks and do it extemporaneously, even better. Please note also that we'll have translation in French, Spanish, and Portuguese, and it's available using the headsets on your table in front of you. To formally open the Ministerial, it is my honor to invite Her Excellency Ms. Betty Soto. She's the Deputy Minister of Innovation and Energy Transition at the Ministry of Energy and Mines for the Dominican Republic and President of the 16th session of the ARENA Assembly. I can't believe the 16 years have passed by so fast. The floor is yours. Thanks, Betty.
Thank you very much. Excellencies, distinguished ministers, partners, and colleagues, good afternoon. It is a great honor to welcome you today. I would like to thank ARENA and all the partners for organizing the Ministerial Dialogue under the SIDS Lighthouses Initiative. The Dominican Republic is very pleased to be part of this important discussion. Small island developing states have shown strong leadership in the energy transition. Even with our size and our challenges, SIDS has made ambitious commitments to climate action and clean energy. These efforts support the Antigua and Barbuda Agenda for SIDS, the Paris Agreement, the Sustainable Development Goals, and the COP28 UAE Consensus, which call for faster growth in renewable energy and better energy efficiency. Energy security and resilience are very important for SIDS. Many of our countries depend heavily on imported fossil fuels. In some cases, this is more than 19% of our energy supply. This makes electricity expensive and exposes us to external shocks. Expanding renewable energy helps reduce these risks and support sustainable growth. We are encouraged by the progress already made. Renewable energy capacity across SIDS reached 9.2 gigawatts in 2024, almost 3 times more than 10 years ago. At the same time, we know the challenge remains serious. Many electricity grids were not designed for large shares of renewable energy. Grid limits, high cost, and lack of financing slow down progress. Remote and outer islands still need reliable and affordable energy access. This is why grid modernization, energy storage, and solutions like mini-grids and microgrids are so important. Financing is a key issue. Small markets and perceived risks make it difficult to attract investment. This is why regional cooperation is essential. Working together through pool procurement, common standards, and shared approaches can reduce cost and improve access to finance. Initiatives such as the SIDS Lighthouse Initiative and the Utilities for Net Zero Alliance support by ARENA offer strong platforms to do this. This ministerial dialogue gives us the opportunity to change, to share experience and learn from each other. Our goal is practical. We want to identify real solutions, strengthen partnerships, and create clear pathways for investment and cooperation that can support resilient and inclusive energy systems. Let me conclude with one simple message. The energy transition in SIDS cannot succeed if we work alone. By working together, we can scale investment, strengthen resilience, and deliver real benefits for our people and our economies. I wish you a productive and meaningful discussion. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Deputy Minister. I think you hit the nail on the head when you it's better not to be working in isolation region. I'd like to introduce Francesco La Camera, the Director General of the International Renewable Energy Agency. The floor, sir, with this intermittent microphone, and I'll use the main mic, therefore. Thanks.
Thank you, John. So, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to welcome you to this SIDS Ministerial on Investment Pathways, Regional Approaches, and Partnership for the Energy Transition. We meet at the moment when the global renewable-based energy transition is accelerating, and when small islands developing states are once again demonstrating leadership that far exceeds their share of global emissions. Across SIDS, ambition continues to rise, not only in response to climate imperatives, but also to very practical challenges of energy security, affordability, and resilience. For small island development states, the connection between energy, climate change, and sustainable development are deeply rooted in lived experience. They are shaped by isolated geographics, exposure to external shocks, and long-standing reliance on important fossil fuels, factors that place sustained pressure on public finances and the delivery of essential services. Recent events underscore their reality starkly. In Jamaica, the impact of Hurricane Melissa over recent months have resulted in an estimated damage of almost $9 billion, equivalent to the 41% of GDP, an alarming reminder of the scale of vulnerability SIDS continue to face. At the same time, recurring Sargasso's invasion across the Caribbean are compounding these shocks, disrupting livelihoods that underpin many SIDS economy. It is against this backdrop that the international community has increasingly recognized the need for more integrated, pragmatic, and partnership-driven approaches to supporting SIDS. The Antigua and Barbuda Agenda for SIDS, commonly known as ABBA's Agenda, captures this and sets out a more integrated and forward-looking approach grounded on SIDS leadership and focused on resilience, energy independence, and sustainable development over the coming decade. The direction is reinforced by the UAE consensus, which underscores the central role of energy system in achieving wider development outcomes and calls for a more concerted efforts to accelerate renewable energy deployment and energy efficiency globally. For SIDS, this global commitment must translate into investment pathways that are feasible, affordable, and adapted to small and vulnerable systems. At the same time, the nature of energy transition in SIDS is evolving. It is no longer defined solely by the addition of renewable capacity. Digitalization and artificial intelligence are also emerging as critical enablers for resilient energy systems in SIDS. AI-driven tools can support more accurate demand forecasting, optimize the integration of variable renewables, strengthen grid stability, and enhance disaster preparedness and response. For small insulated power systems, these capabilities are essential to managing risk, reducing costs, and maximizing the value of every unit of renewable energy deployed. Harnessed responsibly and inclusively, AI can enable SIDS to leapfrog legacy infrastructure while strengthening energy security and system resilience. Increasingly, it involves modernizing power systems, strengthening institutions, expanding access, and ensuring that energy systems can sustain critical services, including health, water, communication, disaster response, under growing climate stress. These challenges are not unique to individual countries, and they cannot be addressed through isolated project-by-project approaches alone. They call for investment pathway adopted to small systems, regional approach that creates scale and reduces risk, and partnership that better align public and private capital. In this current, ARENA's role as coordinator of the SIDS Lighthouse Initiative is particularly important. The initiative provides a global partnership platform that brings together 42 SIDS and 53 partners, including development agencies, utilities, the private sector, and international organizations to advance coordinated country-led action. Through this platform and through partnerships such as the Utility for Net Zero Alliance, ARENA is now engaging closely with regional organizations to strengthen collaboration among utilities and governments, and to advance energy planning, procurement, and demand aggregation as practical tools to reduce costs, increase scale of capital mobilization, and renewable energy investment for SIDS. ARENA is also supporting SIDS in strengthening the energy component of their NDC 3.0 submissions, helping translate ambition into implementable and investable priorities. ARENA supports Seychelles NDC 3.0 by delivering a cost-effectiveness analysis of renewable energy mitigation option. ARENA is supporting Mauritius by reviewing its renewable energy roadmap and modeling mitigation option for the power and transport sector. The agency is also supporting Papua New Guinea through a country-led energy transition assessment and recommendation for their NDCs. To underpin this transition at the system level, we recently launched a grid modernization toolkit for SIDS, which provides practical guidance on integrating higher share of renewables while maintaining reliability flexibility, and resilience. Today's Ministerial provides an important opportunity to reflect on how national ambition can be reinforced through regional cooperation and how partnership can translate shared objectives into investable, resilient, and inclusive energy system across states. As we progress toward a 2026 pre-COP, hosted and championed by the Pacific, ARENA remains fully committed to working with SIDS and partners across all regions to move from ambition to implementation and measurable impacts on the ground. Moreover, before I conclude, I extend my gratitude to the Dominican Republic for their visionary leadership in representing the voice and concern of all SIDS as President of the 16th Assembly of ARENA. I wish you a productive and forward-looking discussion, and I look forward to the insight that will emerge from today's dialogue. Thank you, and back to you, John.
Okay, Francesco, thanks very much for a fantastic umbrella opening, as they say here. And I wanted to commend you for the work that's been done at ARENA, particularly over the last 12 months. We had a chance to be in Barbados last year when they were leading this push for the pooling of the resources by Prime Minister Motley there, and the different models that ARENA is supporting through the Lighthouse Initiative. I just want to make one note on the translation devices. Apparently they are not in operation. So when I do call in, some of the speakers are not speaking English, we'll do simultaneous translation, and I know we're going to do that for His Excellency from Comoros. But first, I'd like to bring forward Gurbuz Gonal. He's the Director of Country Engagement and Partnerships at ARENA. He's going to give us a scene-setting presentation, picking up on the themes that the Director General had put forth to us, and particularly the partnerships around SIDS, which is nearly 40 countries. Please, Gurbuz. Thanks.
Thank you very much, John. Excellencies, distinguished delegates. A clean energy transition that is secure, resilient, affordable, and tailored to local needs has long been a priority for small island developing states. Yet many continue to face persistent challenges, from system integration and grid stability to last mile access and rebuilding after climate shocks. I would like to outline the current landscape and our role in creating conducive environments and catalyzing energy transition investments. As for the deployment, we see a sustained momentum for renewables within a diverse SIDS energy landscape, with installed capacity is rising fast, reached 9.4 gigawatts in 2024. Possibly we crossed 10 gigawatts last year, when the numbers come up, but it's clearly that in the last decade it has tripled. Progress, however, is uneven across regions, with each SIDS region facing diverse resources, system and investment realities. Solar leads everywhere, but it dominates most in the ACE region. The Caribbean has a more balanced mix with stronger roles for wind and bioenergy. In the Pacific, hydropower remains the backbone, with solar as a complement. Energy access gap remains stark, and reaching remote and underserved communities is still a major challenge. With the updated NDCs, we are seeing more ambitious renewable energy targets, stronger commitments to transport decarbonization, renewed focus on clean cooking, and clearer signals to move away from fossil fuels. Many of these commitments are conditional, hinging on access to affordable finance, enabling policy and regulatory frameworks, and sustained technical and institutional support. In fact, ARENA's analysis shows that nearly two-thirds of the renewable energy capacity SIDS plans to add under the NDCs depend on international support. Meeting SIDS targets will require over $6.1 billion by 2035, with $42 billion reliant on international finance. The global landscape of clean energy finance, over 83%, which comes from loans, offers only limited grants and equity, which are crucial for early project preparations and risk reduction. With smaller markets and higher perceived risks in SIDS, this skewed financing mix drives up capital costs and slows project implementation. Closing this gap means moving beyond standalone projects towards regional coordination and partnerships that create scale, reduce risk, and crowd in investments, as strongly highlighted in the Antigua-Barbuda agenda for SIDS. Abbas priorities align closely with the SIDS Lighthouses initiative, which is a global partnership coordinated by IRENA that brings together today 42 SIDS and more than 50 partners across 11 priority areas. Turning ambition into investment remains the core challenge, and this is where IRENA's support is focused. IRENA helps countries translate high-level goals into clear, system-ready investment pathways through energy roadmaps, power system modeling, sectoral analysis, and stronger data. As a most recent example, in Sao Tome and Principe, our assessment helped mobilize $4.25 million for decentralized solar PV to strengthen healthcare services. Next comes enabling delivery. This means stronger policies and regulations, building utility and institutional capacity to attract private investment, bankable PPAs, and grids that can absorb more renewables. Our newest toolkit for SIDS is on grid modernization that supports countries in strengthening flexibility, resilience, and reliability as renewable penetration grows. Through a review of legal and regulatory frameworks for Fiji's energy sector, we have identified reforms to reduce uncertainty and improve private sector participation that's key to building investor confidence. The focus then shifts to bankable projects. Many SIDS have strong ideas but struggle to reach financial close. IRENA supports it through its project facilitation platforms like ETAF, CIP, as well as the investment forums. And we started also providing targeted support to strengthen local project design capacity, like the support we have provided to Vanuatu that resulted in concepts covering 5 villages and benefiting over 2,000 people and unlocking $20 million US grant from Asian Development Bank. In the Caribbean, we are working with SICRI and UNESA, the Utilities for Net Zero Alliance, to advance pool procurement and regional grid integration, aggregating demand, reducing risk, and building scalable investment pipelines. And altogether, these efforts support a clear shift from ambition to delivery and eventually from individual projects to impact at scale. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gomal. It was great. Thank you for the clarity on that. So we're now into our stage of the strategic discussion, which will take us to the very end at 4 o'clock. So I'm going to ask everybody to have very good focus in terms of their interjections, as I noted, at 3 minutes. As our President and the Director General mentioned, and also through that very clear presentation, SIDS are showing leadership through ambitious targets. And I want to commend also the Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week, because this grid interconnection was a key issue that we were taking up last year. And again, you're trying to bring the private sector into these partnerships coming under the ARENA structure itself. So ambitious targets, policy reforms, regional cooperation, and innovative partnerships have come together. And I was surprised to see how small that number is. I mean, $6 billion compared to some of the other requirements, for example, the LDCs, is a drop in the bucket, knowing the impact it'll have for the developing island states themselves. So I'd like to move into the Q&A session. As I noted, there is not translation, so we'll do some ad hoc management of that, but I'm very confident. The key question here, and it's framed with 3 sub-questions: as your country advances its ambitious renewable energy targets, what are your immediate priorities for scaling up renewables? What key investment barriers stand in the way for you to do so? and what actions are you taking to overcome those barriers? We can identify barriers, but getting that magic mix to get over it is another matter, of course. I'd like to welcome the Minister of Information, Communication Technologies, Utilities, and Energy with a wide portfolio from Antigua and Barbuda. The Honorable Melford Nicholas has the floor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And let me take this opportunity to say that it's good to be here. As my first run as one of the vice presidents of IRENA, I'd want to congratulate President Soto for assuming the chair. The immediate priorities for Antigua and Barbuda really stems from the urgent economic imperative to accelerate renewable energy adoption. And by that challenge, we see it as necessary for the utility company to really make this transition, this renewable energy transition. And that results in the need for it to be able to have utility scale generation, utilizing solar and to a lesser extent wind. And of course, this will also need to have the composite move towards improving the grid infrastructure to accommodate the renewable energy sources. In addition to that, we see this as important if we are ever going to reduce our reliance on fossil fuel generated energy, which is a significant economic vulnerability that we face with the impact of exogenous shocks whenever there are disturbances globally. And of course, the constraints that we are looking at the moment, it's the whole question of the reduce overseas development assistance. And of course, the high capital and delivery costs working with us in small island developing states because of our scales. Of course, this can be circumscribed when we work in terms of collaborating and pooling our procurement needs with similar territories. And of course, we are anticipating that there will be some tightening of the concessional windows. The more recent information that we had about major countries exiting the IRENA family, I'm certain that will have an impact on IRENA. And clearly, that will certainly have a further impact on what resources may become available for a small island developing state like our own. And of course, one of the issues that I observed was not very well treated this morning in the conversation about financing is the whole question of insurance. Insurance for renewable energy infrastructure is an issue that confronts us as small island developing states. And in particular, when you overlay that with the type of climate shocks that we have, we looked at the Jamaica experience, and we have had some of that in the past in Antigua. That is a matter of consideration as we continue our renewable energy planning program. So I really just wanted to highlight those particular areas, and that really has the focus of my ministry and the government of Antigua and Barbuda at this time.
Thank you very much, and thank you for addressing the elephant in the room, because it's been quite a shock already, but you can already see that you're landscaping for a choppier horizon in 2026 as a result. It's very interesting because I still follow energy very carefully, and there's a shortfall of about 1 million barrels a day in the Caribbean for hard crude. So it's good to see these countries looking for the options to renewables and to make sure they try to get the financing necessary under the Lighthouse initiatives. His Excellency Mr. Abu Bakr Saeed Anli is the Minister of Energy, Water and Hydrocarbons for Comoros. I understand you have set a speech, so you're not in need of the translation. If so, we have it ready for you with somebody to do it physically. Please, the floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum. Bon, nous, merci beaucoup pour la parole, hein, mais nous le déplorons que le pays ne soit pas mis au même niveau de compréhension. Nous sommes là, on nous avait promis qu'il y aurait de la traduction, mais malheureusement, nous, on n'a pas compris. On n'a pas suivi depuis le début, on n'a rien compris, bon, on a parlé. Bon. On va essayer de s'exprimer, mais nous déplorons quand même la façon dont l'atelier est organisé, parce qu'on pensait que le pays aurait le même niveau et plus de compréhension. Malheureusement, se trouve dans la salle, mais n'arrive pas à comprendre ce qui se passe.
All right, Minister Onley, do you want to pause? Do you want to pause because we're doing
Non, c'est pas comme
translation
ça.
for you?
Non, c'est pas comme ça, monsieur. Quand même, on peut pas. Depuis le matin qu'on a commencé,
Monsieur le
on avait
ministre,
compris, on nous avait promis qu'on allait avoir des traductions simultanées, on ne l'a pas fait. Donc nous on va continuer. Bien, le Comore, hein, c'est un pays étant insulaire en voie de développement. Comme tous les pays en voie de développement, ils ont le même problème. Ils ont le problème de montée des eaux, ils ont le problème de climatique. Mais en tant que pays insulaire, nous réaffirmons notre engagement à accélérer la transition énergétique vers les sources renouvelables. Et comme de tous les pays en voie de développement, nous avons des priorités. Nos priorités actuelles restent sur la diversification des mix énergétiques par la solaire et bientôt, bien sûr, par la géothermie, ainsi que la modernisation des réseaux électriques et intégration des solutions de stockage. Aussi, nous pensons que nous devons déployer des systèmes décentralisés pour garantir l'accès universel à l'énergie et renforcer les compétences locales et les transferts de technologies, et aussi en mobilisant des partenaires régionaux et internationaux pour le financement et l'expertise. Bien sûr, nous avons des obstacles. C'est le coût initiaux très élevé et accès limité au financement, la vulnérabilité climatique des infrastructures et la forte dépendance aux importations technologiques. Donc, nous plaidons pour que nous puissions avoir recours aux fonds verts avec des garanties de risque de partenariat public-privé ainsi qu'au microfinancement pour le projet communautaire. Voilà, merci beaucoup.
Okay, thank you very much, Minister, and thank you. It's my understanding that we're going to get your speech translated from French to English, and we'll try to distribute to this roundtable. Thanks for rolling with the punches. Aisha, do you want to do a quick recap, please?
yes, thank you so much, John. So the Minister of Commerce has been talking about the steps that the Commerce is doing currently to drive renewable energy in the country. And among these efforts, they are trying to diversify their energy mix, focusing on solar energy and geothermal energy. And of course, all of this with the need support from the international community, especially the financial organizations. They also see that they are focusing on building their staff capacity within different ministries, and they require also support with that. However, despite all of these steps and plans, Comoros is also facing struggles and also issues when it comes to the importation of fossil fuels, etc., which puts a heavy weight on the country's budget. And also, they are facing issues when it comes to securing financing for their projects, and they require, finally, they require the international community support to drive forward their plans in adopting renewable energy. Thank you.
Good. I'm impressed, Aisha, by the fact you didn't take any notes while you were doing it. And I work with a lot of translators, so thank you for stepping in. Again, Your Excellency, thanks for your patience with that. I'd like to welcome the Honorable Naisa Tuinacheba, the Assistant Minister of Public Works, Transport, and Meteorological Services for the island of Fiji. Please, the floor is yours. Thanks.
The Director General for IRENA, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Bulawinaka and Assalamu alaikum, and a very warm Pacific greetings to you all. It is an honor to join you today to deliberate and discuss issues of common interest affecting our small islands development states. We come together with one voice and with a shared vision to establish innovative investment pathways, strengthen regional partnership and cooperation, and to accelerate renewable energy deployment. For us, renewables are not just an option. They are a cornerstone of our energy security, resilience, and sustainable growth. While we've made commitments to increase our renewable energy share and provide electricity access to all Fijians, the pathways to achieve these targets are not easy and simple. We are confronted with a huge task to fulfill government's renewable energy commitment and consequently meet the ever-increasing demand of electricity supply in the country. In 2024, our electricity demand grew by 9% from the 3 to 4% in the previous years. So the additional demands were mostly met from our thermal power plants. So having access to reliable and stable electricity supply is the bedrock for socio-economic development and prosperity. In 2026 and 2029, Fiji will implement a $1 billion multi-asset renewable energy and grid modernization program, forming the backbone of the country's transition to more than 90% renewable electricity by 2035. So the program is underpinned by a blended financing structure, combining consensual loans, grants, export credit agencies, backed facilities, and private sector participation aligned to its international best practice. Our existing grid network was built for a base load generations from hydropower and thermal generations. However, with the integration of variable sources from solar and wind, will face major constraints and challenges. Modernizing our grid infrastructure and control systems is imperative for power reliability and grid stability. So despite this progress, Fiji, like all SIDS, still face a lot of challenges. These are high upfront capital costs, limited concessional finance, and perceived investment risks make projects in small and dispersed market less attractive. So technical capacity constraints, especially around project preparations, maintenance, and system integration. As for many SIDS, the geographical realities of scattered islands increase costs across the entire project lifecycle. To address these challenges, Fiji is taking proactive steps that include strengthening regional and international partnerships, including with IRENA, development banks, multilateral mechanisms like the Energy Transition Accelerator Facility to package bankable projects and leverage blended finance. Engaging closely with partners to build local technical capacity, from engineers and planners to grid operators, ensuring that renewable projects are not only implemented but sustainably managed for the long term. Lastly, promoting policy reforms and reforms in regulatory frameworks that encourage public-private participations, risk mitigation instruments, and market-based incentives. Excellencies, our experience shows that investment pathways are strongest when national leadership, regional corporations, and international partnerships move together. For Fiji, accelerating renewables is ultimately about resilience, protecting our communities, stabilizing costs, and securing our future. We look forward to working closely with IRENA and all partners as we translate ambition into implementation. Thank you, and
Thank you very much. Did I hear you correctly that you're targeting 90% renewable capacity by 2035, despite the obstacles that you talked about, and I'm very aware of the cost pressures that you're facing today. And thank you. I want to thank the panelists for being so direct and so clear with their comments so far, which is greatly appreciated by the organization. Her Excellency, Ms. Marie May Jeremy, is the Minister for Environment, Climate, Energy, and Natural Resources for the islands of the Seychelles. Please, Minister.
Thank you, Moderator. Distinguished Excellencies, colleagues, good afternoon. Against the backdrop and the presentations earlier, Seychelles shares a lot of the similar challenges that have been raised already. And in particular, our energy transition is one which is a necessity for us. It's a necessity for our economic resilience, energy security, and long-term sustainability. We still have heavy dependence on importing fossil fuels. And of course, this exposes us to price volatility, foreign exchange risks, and supply disruptions, while also contributing to emissions that we did not create. Accelerating renewable energy deployment is therefore a national priority, which we have communicated very clearly in our indices, and of course, as we make that transition to our 15% target. Our top priorities at the moment are focused on 3 key areas. The first one being scaling up of renewable energy, and in our case, really focusing on solar energy, particularly rooftop and distributed solar. With limited land availability, Seychelles has had to prioritize rooftop solar on public buildings, household, industrial, and commercial facilities. As the share of renewable energy increases, the country is looking into battery storage to improve grid stability and reliability. Moreover, we are also exploring floating solar and innovative dual solutions to overcome land constraints. And last year, we did kickstart with one of our first solar PV programs. Modernizing and strengthening our power system is the second one in terms of our key priority areas. High penetration of variable renewables. It requires investment in grid flexibility, storage, digitalization, and demand-side management. We are now trying to move towards smarter grids and improving forecasting to safely integrate these higher shares of renewables without compromising the reliability for us. This falls under our recently launched Renewable Energy Accelerated program, which is being led by our Utilities Corporation. Thirdly, we are creating an enabling policy and regulatory environment, which we know remains very important if we want to accelerate. And this will include improving the procurement framework, standardizing power purchase agreements, and introducing targeted incentives to crowd in the private investment and create a safe environment for the private sector, but also protecting the consumers. However, despite the progress that we've been able to make, we continue to face significant challenges, which are not unique to us, very common. Affordable finance remain a huge one for us. We still have a small market size, and the perceived investment risk remains there, and high upfront capital costs makes it very difficult to attract the size and scale of projects and programs that we want, in particular as it relates to private investment. Another barrier remains limited technical and institutional capacity, both in project development and system operations. And we have been trying to address this through partnerships with development agencies and regional cooperation and targeted capacity building that helps to build the capacity of our stakeholders to take on this role. And we have also introduced a new regulator, which is helping to facilitate this process. In closing, I would like to just highlight that accelerating renewable energy in SIDS is really about building those resilient systems and empowering our communities and securing economic future. With the right partnerships, the financing tools and policy support, I am certain that Seychelles and SIDS more broadly can demonstrate that ambitious energy transitions are possible, even as we continue to face very serious constraints. Thank you.
Good. Just born out of curiosity, because of the tourism development of the small island development states, right? Are you having challenges meeting the demand of your tourism arrivals and your population at the same time? You just give a quick interjection. I think it would be good to share it with the audience.
Yes, for certain, our energy demand is driven by the tourism sector. It's 4 times the population of the country, so a lot of that actually is coming from it. And so in terms of the private investment, therefore looking to work with the sector as well is high on the agenda to make sure that we are able to keep up with the growing demand for that sector.
Very interesting. Thanks for taking the question. I'd like to bring to the roundtable Her Excellency Ms. Noura El-Kabi. She's the Minister of State for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the UAE. And we know that the United Arab Emirates has worked closely with SIDS to translate partnerships into action, and that is notably through initiatives such as the UAE Caribbean Renewable Energy Fund and also the UAE Pacific Partnership Funds. And I have a question for you, Minister. It's nice to see you again. Drawing on the experience, what would you say are the key lessons in delivering tangible outcomes across SIDS at both the national and regional levels, and is UAE encouraging this pooling of resources so you have scale when these RFPs go out or the bids go out for projects? Please. Thanks.
Thank you, John. It's wonderful to see you again. And allow me to just deliver the note which will maybe answer your question, and I can elaborate even further if it wasn't answered. Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends of the SIDS community, the United Arab Emirates stands before you today with a clear and unwavering message. We are here to amplify the voice of small islands developing states. We recognize that while SIDS are on the front lines of the global climate crisis, you are also on the front lines of innovation and resilience. The Antigua and Barbuda agenda of SIDS is not just a document, it is a blueprint of survival and prosperity. The UAE is not merely a supporter of this agenda, we are a dedicated partner in its execution. The UAE believes that true partnership is measured by steel in the ground and power in the grid. Our focus on translating multilateral commitments into tangible national and regional projects. Through the UAE Caribbean Renewable Energy Fund and the UAE Pacific Partnership Fund, we have invested over $100 million to bring solar and wind energy to more than 26 island nations. We hope that these initiatives contribute to creating the foundations of resilience economies, reducing the burden of imported fossil fuels, and freeing up capital for education and healthcare. From the Noor solar project in the Comoros to wind and solar parks in the Seychelles and the Maldives, we have moved beyond theory to implementation. These projects ensure that renewable energy becomes the heartbeat of the island economy. Our role as a solution-oriented leader is further solidified through our partnership in the SIDS Lighthouses initiative with IRENA. Together, we are showing the world that a 100% renewable future is possible. Today's focus is on investment pathways and pooled procurement. This is where the UAE can be a trusted partner. We're moving beyond one-off 8 projects toward implementation frameworks that build institutional capacity, helping SIDS attract private investment and lower cost through regional partnerships. By working alongside regional organizations and IRENA, the UAE is helping to shape the future of financing, ensuring that the multidimensional vulnerability index and new debt sustainability services become reality. The UAE's vision for the next decade is simple. We want to ensure that every island nation has the tools to achieve resilient prosperity. We are proud to stand with you as a trusted partner invested in your secure and sustainable future. Let us chart this course together. Thank you.
Thank you. Of course, you answered the question, so thank you for outlining that so carefully. I also have to commend the UAE because it was the COP process here in the country that kept SIDS on the priority list while most of the media was focused on this orderly transition of the language. The effort was made very clearly to keep this on the global agenda, and it's greatly recognized, obviously, with that investment of $100 million supporting 26 island states. Ladies and gentlemen, while we often speak about progress in aggregate terms, the experience across SIDS is very different, as all you know in this room. For many countries, the priority is also making sure energy reaches people, especially in rural communities. Clean cooking solutions, again, another area that's picked up a lot of momentum in the last 3 years, and I know that effort has been supported also here in the GCC as a priority. and in areas where distance and isolation remain daily challenges. But I have to say, we don't see any hurdles by people removing their targets. They're pushing the targets in terms of continue, as the Minister of State was suggesting there, to keep those ambitions. So it's in this context I'd like to turn my next question to the following ministers from Micronesia, San Tome and Principe, and Solomon Island. So first I'd like to go to the Honorable Alina Aganaga, as the Secretary of Department of Resources and Development for the Federated States of Micronesia. And we're going to bring in His Excellency Mr. Nelson Mario de Cavallo Rosa Cardoso, the Minister of Infrastructure, Natural Resources and Environment for San Tome and Principe, and the Honorable Derek Rockcliffe Manuari, Minister of Mines, Energy and Rural Electrification from Solomon Islands. And here's the question for you to undertake. Based on your experience, what has proven most effective in grouping smaller initiatives? And this was addressed by some of our speakers already, like mini grids or clean cooking programs, so they can reach communities quickly and remain viable for partners and investors. My last project for CNN actually took me to the corners of India, where they're still using wood and barbecue to cook for their families on a consistent basis, and that's no longer an option in the 21st century. So, Your Excellency, Alina, would you like to take it from there? Thank you.
Thank you, Moderator. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I thank Irina for the opportunity to be part of this vital discussion on investment pathways, regional approaches, and partnerships as we navigate our shared energy transition. Now, to answer your question, for the Federated States of Micronesia, a nation of 4 main states and 607 remote outer islands, of which 64 islands are inhabited, the necessity of bundling projects for investment is not a conceptual exercise. It is foundational to our national survival and development. Our experience has illuminated some key lessons that shape our approach to energy. We have confronted challenges head-on. Early attempts to implement mini-grids on our outer islands often faltered due to inadequate operations and maintenance, lack of technical skills on the islands, and a lack of local ownership. In response, we have established a transformative policy. We now mandate the engagement of our 4 state power utilities from the project's inception. These utilities are tasked with ensuring long-term O&M, guided by electricity tariffs that promote sustainability and create a bankable operations model. We have also recognized the importance of bundling electrification with vital elements, such as water security and productive use of energy, or PUE. Our vision is not just to deliver electricity. We are committed to integrating rainwater harvesting and water treatment systems and income-generating opportunities into our energy solutions. Additionally, we are implementing drought-time reverse osmosis plants managed by our utilities, creating a multi-utility resilience asset that is far more enticing for our development partners. Central to our strategy is the collaboration with island communities, especially women's groups, in co-designing energy systems to meet their specific needs. We actively ask, what will you power? Responses have included initiatives such as taro flour milling, fish drying, banana and breadfruit chip production, and ice production for fishermen. This community engagement is crucial as it directly informs our technical designs and enhances community buy-in. Each project is accompanied by business mentoring and market linkages to the main islands, transforming our solar mini-grids from mere electrification projects into catalysts for economic growth, which in turn strengthens our repayment streams. We have also leveraged this integrated model to coordinate and de-risk financing. Initiatives in the state of Chuuk are backed by the European Union and DFAT for electrifying 3 islands, while the World Bank supports 2 islands with additional plans for 5 more islands in Chuuk State. The Asian Development Bank is instrumental in providing productive use equipment across 8 islands in Chuuk, while also planning electrification for 3 islands in the state of Yap and 4 in the state of Pohnpei, including PUE components. We have encouraged all partners to adopt common standards across FSM to assure the resilience of our systems. On our main islands, we are committed to transitioning away from diesel-based generation to renewable sources like solar, wind, and hydropower. In collaboration with the ADB, we aim to identify sizable projects that can attract independent power producers while developing structured power purchase agreements with potential backing from partial risk guarantees or government guarantees. Additionally, we are collaborating with Japan on joint credit mechanism for projects on Pohnpei State, and the World Bank is supporting essential grid enforcements to facilitate the evacuation of renewable energy. To conclude, our pathway is straightforward. By bundling electricity, water systems, and community enterprises into a cohesive investment vision, we can transform isolated projects into a scalable national portfolio. This structured approach is how we aim to achieve 100% electrification of our outer islands by 2030, not simply as a matter of energy access, but as a profound investment in our collective future. I thank you.
Thank you very much. It's very interesting. You put the community first to see where the demand is needed and where that energy could be applied. You rarely hear that in terms of landscaping the energy supplies. His Excellency, the Minister of Infrastructure, Natural Resources and Environment for Saint Tomé and Principe, please. In the broadcasting world, we would have a hard time fitting your full name on a teleprompter, I think. Please, go ahead. Thanks.
Thank you. Honorable Ministers, distinguished representatives, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, on behalf of the government of Sao Tome and Principe, I salute and thank Irena for the invitation extended to me to attend the 16th section of Irena Assembly. It's an honor to speak at this assembly as a representative of a small island developing state for which the energy transition is both a strategic priority and developmental necessity. For our country, energy means access, inclusion, and resilience. It's with this vision, following the M300 mission, that we have developed and structured our energy compact focused on concrete solutions adapted to our island reality with a direct impact of people's lives. One of the center pillars of our action, beyond of microstructure of our renewable source, is the development of renewable energy-based mini-grids. Mini-grids allow us to bring reliable electricity to rural and isolated communities, reduce dependency of imported fossil fuel, and support local productive activities. They are a practical solution to accelerate universal energy access with simultaneously strengthening climate resilience. We are committed to expand solar and hybrid mini-grids, including storage, sustainable management models, and strong community involvement. In parallel, we are working to strengthen the regulatory framework and national technical capacity to ensure the sustainability of this solution. A clear example of this pilot project for a solar photopneumatic mini-grids model is in a rural community of Standard Light supported by Kingdom of Belgium. This is something that is a very good form of supplying electricity to the community area, and we need to maybe to multiply it in Sao Tome, or why not extend it for another small island country. Another priority axis for our action is clean cooking. In Sao Tome and Principe, the dependence of firewoods and charcoal still affects the health of families, particularly women and children, and contribute to deforestation. For us, promoting clean cooking solution is a matter of public health, environmental protection, and social equality, especially as we are the first country in the world to have 100% of its territory designated a World Biosphere Reserve. Our Energy Compact commits to expand access to clean cooking technologies by combining improved cook stoves, more efficient solutions, and progressively electric options powered by renewable energy. Excellencies, we recognize that achieving this action requires adequate financing, technical support, and solid partnership. Therefore, we call upon international partners, financial institutions, and the private sector to support result-oriented initiatives, especially in small island developing states. IRENA is a fundamental partner on this journey as a catalyst for policy, knowledge, and implementation. Sao Tome and Principe reaffirms its commitment to working closely with the agency to transform commitment into concrete results. I conclude by emphasizing that for us, mini-grids and clean cooking are not abstract concepts. They are real solutions to improve lives today and build more just and sustainable energy future. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Cardoso, and thank you for, I know you came in with a much longer presentation, so I appreciate you making those edits super clear. I'd love to talk to you about your potential hydrocarbon supplies and whether it derails your renewable plans and access to energy, but it's very clear that's not the case, so I congratulate you on that. It's great to have the geographical representation here. I welcome the Solomon Islands, the Honorable Derek Rawcliffe Manowari. Please.
Thank you, Moderator, and thank you for the opportunity to share the experience of Solomon Islands to this esteemed forum. Solomon Islands is a small island developing state, similar challenges with other SIDS countries. Over the years, we have been heavily reliant on biogas as a form of energy at a very small scale, but we have had experiences in mainly rooftop solar, and its implementation being driven by government initiatives. And based on the question that you've asked with regards to our experience in terms of having small initiatives in terms of renewable energy, I think for us in Solomon Islands, our agenda, or advent on energy transition is not only about decarbonization, but it's about our survival. It's not just about having clean energy initiatives. It's about our resilience, about our dignity. And a just and a resilient transition into clean energy, renewable energy is very important to us. And having the experience of ad hoc and sporadic project initiatives, mainly driven by government, in an island of, in a country of more than 500 islands that are inhabited, it poses a lot of challenges in terms of the financial risks, in terms of investment, as well as cumulative costs in terms of the capital expenditure. And therefore, it requires, in our experience, more programmatic approach in terms of rolling out renewable energy programs to provide meaningful and resilient infrastructure for our people. It also gives us the realization of the need for a tailored financing and regional cooperation in terms of how we administer and manage the transition of sustainable energy, renewable energy across small island developing states. Well, there are finances that are available. It is very difficult for small island states like Solomon Islands to access these fundings. Given our differences in terms of the categories that we have, even within the small island developing states, it also varies. We may be dealing with a country of 2 islands, one single island, and there will be countries that have more than 10 islands. So the levels of access to these finances is something that we have to really seriously look at if we are to meaningfully engage small island states to participate and benefit from these resources. The human aspect of development must not be overcome by our ambitious goals to achieve renewable energy to a certain degree by a certain period of time. The human aspect of development must always be the primary focus of our goals moving forward. So a tailored financing approach and a more meaningful regional cooperation is of paramount importance. So we call for SIDS-specific, highly concessional and blended financing approaches that accounts for the specific context of each small developing state, the socio-economic and political context of these island developing states. That has to look at how we can initiate de-risking tools to assist them in accessing global financing and renewable energy financing, as well as stronger regional procurement planning and emergency support across all SIDS states. And not only that, but it also requires partnerships that build capacity, not to commit us into more dependency. We have been for a very long time reliant on biofuel. And we are not going to say that renewable energy will replace totally our dependence on biofuel. But our expertise, our knowledge is mainly based on biofuel facilities, tools, the technology that we have. If we are to meaningfully transition from biofuel to renewable energy, there has to be a transformation as well in terms of the knowledge that we have. The knowledge base that we have lacks the current technology that renewable energy brings along. So the focus should also be in how we transition that knowledge base from biofuel base to a renewable energy base. So on top of the need for us to continue strengthening our legislative frameworks, regulatory frameworks, as well as our systems and processes, we must also look at areas that can bring in meaningful community partnerships. In some of our Pacific Island countries, we have a land tenure system that can give us a bottleneck to many of the development initiatives, though noble and good. So there has to be a strong sense of community ownership over these initiatives so that land as the main source of resource can be available, readily available this for the projects to be initiated, but also for the communities to meaningfully participate in these initiatives.
Great. Thank you very, very much for the presentation. It's interesting. I haven't heard that narrative about making the transition with your workforce and in a community from biofuels to renewables. So it's good for you to signify it there in terms of the partnership expectations that you have in the country, which has got a very challenging landscape to deliver this, and it's a common narrative through this discussion. This brings us to the experience of the Maldives. By standardizing designs and power purchase agreements and bundling projects across islands, Maldives has been able to successfully scale up solar in a practical and sustainable way. So I'd like to bring in Mr. Tariq Ibrahim, Minister of Tourism and Environment, the Maldives, to share key lessons of what has worked well and what governments should be mindful of as other SIDS consider pooled or bundled approaches at national and regional levels. Your Excellency, the floor is yours, and it's very interesting because the Maldives has pursued a pretty persistent and successful pathway in tourism development, but you needed the energy in which to do so. Thanks.
Thank you, Excellencies. Very good afternoon to you all, and thank you, Irina, for hosting this important gathering. As you know, Maldives is a frontline SIDS energy security climate risk and development are all very closely linked. And in Maldives, we have been importing 100% of the fuel which we needed to generate the electricity and also the rest of the energy demands. So the high cost and exposure to shocks and physical pressure is something that we deal every day. For us, energy transition is about resilience, about affordability and sovereignty, and not just emissions. So I just wanted to highlight these key issues. As you said, what has worked and what needs to be done is very important to be discussed. What has worked for us is the blended finance is something that worked for us. It is essential for, I think, for small dispersed island systems. Grants plus concessional financing to de-risk project is important. Private capital flow can be then flow once we have these risks are reduced. And what has also worked is solar panels and or solar energy and storage, and is almost competitive and against diesel in outer islands. So that has been working for us right now. Storage, battery storage system, we are embarking on increasing the battery storage system in the Maldives. And the bottlenecks for us is the upfront capital cost of all this system is something that is a bottleneck for us to increase the renewable energy capacity at pace. And also the small project size that raises transition cost is also something that is I would like to highlight because we have 186 inhabited islands across the Maldives and another 175 resorts. So I'm talking about the inhabited islands where we need the financing mechanisms to have the renewable energy installation. So what helps to unlock investment is aggregating island projects into one bankable portfolio. So if you can bring in a lot of small islands and aggregate it as one bankable portfolio, then that can actually, we think that it can unlock the investments. And guarantee credit mechanisms is something that is working in the Maldives. We have worked with the World Bank and also ADB, so that those institutions are guaranteeing the private sector for the installment of renewable energy systems. And then predictable tariffs and clear procurement in the pipeline is something that is important. So the message to partners is don't pilot forever and help us scale. So I think we don't want always piloting projects. So I think that's something that we should take note. Regional approaches, why SIDS must work together is SIDS face common constraints, small grid, high cost, climate risks. So regional collaboration can actually pool projects to attract investors and also share technical standards for microgrid and storages, reduce risks through joint procurement. So actually that is something that we think that it is important, and strong regional risk sharing and insurance mechanism should work. Knowledge exchange on what works on small islands and grids should be always looked into. We don't need identical solutions, but aligned frameworks to all the islands. So that's something that we think it should have. So for Maldives, the energy transition is already happening. The question is the speed and scale. With the right investment tools, regional solidarity and practical partnership, SIDS can move faster than anyone expects. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Ibrahim, as well, for the detailed answer to the question. And you talked about this importance of regionalization as well. And we wanted to delve into the Caribbean with the CARICOM ministers to explore a regional pool procurement mechanism that you brought up yourself. So I wanted to invite Dr. Mohammed Nagdi, the Executive Director of the Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, to share his views on this idea of demand aggregation, harmonized regulatory and procurement frameworks so that the Caribbean can function as a more integrated and predictable market. I thought it was very interesting. Nobody has the same blueprint around the world, but we can compare these blueprints for deployment. So Dr. Mohammed, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Chair, ministers, excellencies, colleagues. So coincidentally, just a few weeks ago, the Ministers of Energy for the Caribbean through the COTAG, the Council for Trade and Economic Development for Energy, actually gave SICRI a mandate to facilitate pool procurement as a mechanism in which we'll be focusing on transitioning the Caribbean away from fossil fuels over the next few years. SICRI welcomes that mandate particularly, and it really does identify the scale and urgency and the need to accelerate this process. And the reason why this is important is that there's no lack of political will, there's no lack of ambition across small and developing states, but we're often facing similar challenges in terms of our innate vulnerabilities, the challenges of scale, and effectively we're working in parallel as opposed to working together. And I think that this signals a strong and positive way forward. And in practical terms, what does this mean? It really means that we're elevating national project pipelines to bankability. And I've always asked this question, is that if we do have all access to the resources we want, we have to ensure that we have bankable projects to be able to facilitate. And there's no lack of that throughout the Caribbean and all the Pacific, small and developing states. And we're happy to be able to work with our Caribbean counterparts and CARICOM to be able to facilitate this. Identifying technologies is a significant priority for us, and it's also basically looking at coherent regional investments in being able to transition the countries. We at SICRI have made a determination from this year that all projects that we do develop and we work with will have scalable investment grade, investment identification of scalable investments at the end of these projects, which is very important. So we note that there have been impactful reporting throughout the region, which is very important, but we need to go a step further. And the identification of the technologies first, and then the investments through our MDBs, the CDB, and others is extremely important. And we're also happy to report that the Caribbean Development Bank has effectively agreed to provide $4.4 million to SICRI for a regional capacity building project, also around the regional pool procurement. Now, why is this important? It means that particularly for our next rounds of IRRPs, which are integrated resource and resiliency plans, that is where the first step for the investment comes in. Being able to work with CDB and other development partners to concretely identify the investment so that we can move squarely towards bankability. That is extremely important. That's crucial for what we're trying to do. It's not as simple as simply saying pool procurement as well. There are also standardizations across power purchase agreements, is also across procurement, similar procurement frameworks to ensure that the region is also marketable, and we can also move at the pace of business, which is also very important for us. And I think that's a key focus for us. So that's a tremendous amount of effort will be taken, not just by SICRI, but across all of our regional counterparts in order for us to achieve this. It is going to be led by national counterparts across CARICOM member states. We're happy that it's going to be anchored by SICRI, and we're looking forward to working with the international partners because there is a coherent interest in regional pool procurement, which means that the market for the Caribbean seems ready for the interest for that level of investment, which is extremely important. So it's not just an end to itself, it is a practical tool. And with the endorsement of Quoted Energy, SICRI is looking forward to working closely with all of our member states and the international partners, as I mentioned. But equally important is the partnership with IRENA. And I'm saying this particularly because it's also the endorsement that we started just about a year and a half ago, where I took over SICRI, effectively being pool procurement identified jointly by IRENA and by SICRI as a progress and a way forward that we wanted to go. So I'm also excited to be here sitting today a year and a half later to identify the progress and looking forward to the next steps of identifying the bankable projects to be able to support the region for a robust energy transition.
Thank you very much, Doctor. It's interesting, the mandate you've been given, so it makes that connectivity amongst the different countries that much easier to achieve. And again, thank you for your clarity. I would like to now turn to ministers to reflect on what governments need to align to Dr. Nagdi's point here, nationally and regionally, to make pooled procurement work in practice and then to deliver real benefits. For that, we brought in So the Honorable Dr. Vince Henderson, Minister of Foreign Affairs, International Business, Trade, and Energy for Dominica, and the Honorable Conrad Maynard, the Minister of Public Infrastructure, Energy, Utilities, Domestic Transport, Information, Communication, Technology, and Post. That minister doesn't sleep at all because of the wide portfolio from St. Kitts and Nevis. I'd like to start with Dr. Vince Henderson, please. Thank you very much. And let's be cognizant of time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, John. And I realize you mentioned time because you introduced me. But that's okay. Yeah. Director General, Madam President, colleagues, pleasant good afternoon. I just, been reflecting, listening to my colleagues here around the table. And, to some aspects, it's gratifying to hear of the progress being made. But also it sends me back to 2012 when we met in Barbados at the Sustainable Energy for All Conference of Small Island Development States. And there was a lot of talk. There was the articulation of grand ambitions. And, reflecting almost 14 years later, it seems to me that there was not enough work done to prepare bankable projects that could become the pathway for implementing projects. And I think we need to take some lessons from that as we move forward. And this is why I'm very excited about the initiative by CARICOM to focus more on our center, the Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency. That is going to be very important moving forward. And I want to, at the same time, thank Irina for giving us a platform through the SIDS Lighthouse. That is, I must say, Director General, that is a very progressive move. It gives us a platform. But what I would like to recommend is that we find a more sustainable way to have ongoing consultations, facilitation, collaboration, so that we can have stronger regional approaches as we move forward. Because I think that is what is absent in all of this. It's not the lack of ambitions, and I don't want anybody to tell me about regulations and go to Parliament and pass laws. We've done this. This does not by itself translate into bankable projects. There are a number of factors that are still absent, and I'm very happy to hear some of my colleagues, Solomon Island, a man after my own heart. I'm very happy to hear your articulation. We're doing this not just to meet targets, not just to brag that by 2020, 2030, 2040, 2050, but to change the lives of all people. In the case of Dominica, we're excited to announce that by the end of the first quarter of this year, we'll be commissioning our first 10-megawatt geothermal power plant. And while this will take us, thank you, while this will take us to 80% of renewable energy on the grid, it still, for me, is a long way from our real target. That is to say, to reduce the cost of electricity to a stage where, the rural folks, the small businesses can have better opportunities to create greater livelihoods for our people. So I just want to again highlight three simple points, and John, I won't go long. One, the insurance that was mentioned by one of our colleagues, I think those are Maldives, we need to focus on that. We need to have better insurance systems for ensuring that assets, renewable assets, can be insured. Especially, we just saw Haiti and Jamaica were devastated by Hurricane Melissa. We have to ensure that we have better insurance systems. We have to ensure that we continue to invite our partners to provide more blended financing with concessional rates that we can take advantage of. And in the case of the World Bank, we have to thank the World Bank. They have been a partner with us resolutely over the last 10 years and to help us to realize our geothermal project. And thirdly, we need to continue to encourage strong partnerships. And in the case of Irina, the UAE CREF, excellent project. We're able to install a 6-megawatt-hour battery storage system, which will work very well for geothermal plant so that we can totally get rid of diesel as we move towards getting rid of diesel. Of course, the European Union has been a partner with us and helped us in the very early stages of exploration and proving the resource. New Zealand was a partner providing technical assistance, and we were able to get personnel from New Zealand to help us do what one of our colleagues was talking about, being able to build technical capacity. So we need strong partnerships moving forward. And in order for us to truly meet the targets that we have set, we need to build and strengthen our regional institutions, the SICRI in the Caribbean, the PICRI in the Pacific, and to ensure that all the member states can, with their own peculiarities, get the support that they need as we move forward to meeting our ambitions. Thank you. Good. Thank you for being so clear. I appreciate that. It's very interesting, the breakthrough on geothermal. I know it's been in the works for a while, but the fact that you landed it and got it to market, if you will, Dr. Vince, it's great. The Honoris Congress Maynard of St. Kitts and Nevis, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to our SICRI partners for setting out a clear and practical vision, and for my colleague, Honorable Henderson. For St. Kitts and Nevis, the smallest independent nation in the Western Hemisphere with a population of just about 52,000, the energy transition is a national priority. We have set some bold ambitions to decarbonize our electricity sector, strengthen energy security, and build resilience in the face of climate and economic shocks. For small island states like ours, these are not distant targets or aspirations. It is about delivering real systems on real timelines for the people of our federation. Now, in a few weeks, we will be launching an RFP for a 50 megawatt solar PV with 35 megawatt hour battery project on the island of St. Kitts that will account for over 30% of our energy needs. A few months later, we will begin drilling geothermal wells on the island of Nevis, which can lead to providing 100% of the energy needs on Nevis, with the excess being exported to St. Kitts. So our immediate priorities are therefore very clear: advancing renewable energy generation, including geothermal and solar with battery energy storage, modernizing our grid, and improving energy efficiency across public infrastructure and households. Yet, despite this ambition, Mr. Chair, we continue to face similar constraints as we heard earlier today. Our markets are small, our project sizes are modest, transaction costs remain high. While global capital for clean energy exists, it does not always reach SIDS at the speed, scale, or structure required. So it is within this context that pooled procurement becomes especially important. From our perspective, aggregation can help SIDS overcome fragmentation. It can improve pricing. It can reduce risk, provided it is anchored in strong institutions and grounded in delivery realities. In our Caribbean region, the SICRI is well positioned to play this role. As a trusted regional institution with a clear mandate from CARICOM, SICRI can coordinate demand, they can engage financiers, and provide the technical and institutional backbone needed to make pooled approaches credible and investable. At the same time, the question of timing must be addressed, Mr. Chair. St. Kitts and Nevis, like other islands represented here, must continue to advance national renewable energy projects with urgency. Regional mechanisms should therefore be designed to complement and strengthen country-level implementation, not delay it. Our transition must move on two tracks: delivering projects now that we're working on, while progressively aligning national efforts within a regional framework that enhances future scale and bargaining power. So, for pooled procurement to succeed in practice, several elements are essential. Governments must bring forward realistic, implementation-ready pipelines. Regulatory and procurement frameworks must be sufficiently harmonized to provide investor confidence, and utilities must remain central partners in the transition. Financing, including de-risking and concessional instruments, must be integrated from the outset rather than introduced after tenders are launched. So, Mr. Chair, if done well, pooled procurement can accelerate delivery rather than slow it. St. Kitts and Nevis stands ready to work with the SICRI, IRENA, and our regional partners to ensure that aggregation becomes a practical tool for urgency, scale, and impact. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Maynard. Appreciate that very much. I'd like to bring forward, I'm going to, just for conclusions here, try to wrap in 10 to 12 minutes. So been incredibly focused so far, and we greatly appreciate it. We wanted to bring in His Excellency Richard Kay, the Ambassador of New Zealand to the UAE, and a permanent representative to ARENA, share his views on what every single minister around the table has talked about. Innovative financing, we heard about the roles of blended financing and its importance, and the regional partnerships. Ambassador?
Thanks, John, very much for a great facilitation job of the session, and thank you very much to ARENA for having today's SIDS Ministerial. As you were saying, I'm going to share New Zealand's experience on the Pacific, so kia ora. It's great to see some of my Pacific colleagues here today in Abu Dhabi, and sorry, I know the region is very diverse, and I'm going to be high level, so I'll keep it brief. Look, in terms of the context and challenge, the Pacific nations, we're very ambitious. We want to be 100% renewable by 2030. Unfortunately, though, progress is slow. At the moment, we've only got 5 megawatts of capacity added annually over the past decade. To meet 2030 targets, we need at least 1.8 gigawatts and about $6 billion US in capital. So the key question for us is, what do we see as the biggest barrier? Technology, financing, or policy? For New Zealand's experience, we see funding gap as the key challenge, and some of the solutions that we're looking at I'll quickly run through. We just believe at the moment traditional donor support is vital, but it's not enough. Upfront costs remain prohibitive. So what we're exploring is some 3 particular innovative financing solutions. We're looking at something called partial risk guarantees. We're working with the multilateral banks on that. We're looking at first loss equity, and that's through private-led funds. And we're also doing co-investment models, which is a mixture of public and private financing and capital. So how do we think we can attract more private investors most effectively? We are trialling with the UK something what we're calling the Transforming Island Development through Electrification and Sustainability. It's a fund. It's got about 100 million US so far, and it's for Pacific renewable projects. It includes a first loss facility, and we also got something in there called a market development facility. So it's really about trying to access that. How are we looking to scale this across our region? The key thing for us is political buy-in, and particularly at a regional level. And I have to congratulate my Pacific colleague here, from the Papua New Guinea. He will be hosting the Pacific Regional Energy and Transport Ministers meeting in May, and that's all about getting that political buy-in and where we can work as a region together, because that's important for the scale and the vast distances we have to overcome in our region. So what do we see as key for partnerships in accelerating this transition? I think the key thing for us is no country can achieve this alone. Collaboration and bold investments is key. And just to finish off, Chair, we believe that let's work together. We need to turn this ambition into action. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Ambassador, for the clarity. ARENA has always been known to be an open door to the private sector, so it's good to hear the voices here was raised about how we could use blended investments and what the regional development banks and the international institutions like the World Bank can do to make these things bankable. Angela Rainford, from your experience working across SIDS and other markets, what helps turn plans and priorities, as the Ambassador was just suggesting, into investable projects? You want to use a couple of models here that are actually making it attractive to jump in?
Sure. No, I'll also just give specific examples as well. Excellencies, distinguished guests, thank you very much for having me. My perspective is going to be from the other side. It's very nice to hear the perspective from the governments, but my perspective is one of actually developing projects from scratch. Seleka Energy is one of the largest developers in the Caribbean region. We've invested over 80 million in Jamaica specifically, and perhaps I may draw upon that experience. So why did we invest? So St. Kitts Nevis, very happy that you've firmly announced you're going to be doing an RFP. First thing we need as a private sector is we need clear direction from you. What is it that you plan to do? What are the policies that are in place and the regulatory frameworks? Rule of law is also critical. Contracts are critical, so the pooling of the contracts is very important. But I'd also say consistency of policy. Governments change. Private sectors we go with the wave in terms of what you do. And the more you sway back and forth in terms of what your plan is the more uncomfortable we become and the less likely we are to invest. So in the case of Jamaica, I've gone through 4 or 5 different energy ministers, and I've switched governments at least 2 or 3 times.
Jeez.
And they have retained their overall policy. There has been delays, but they have not changed their method. And that gives us comfort in terms of investing. The second thing I would say is in terms of de-risking, I think that's been touched upon quite a bit by the group, the distinguished groups here, but it's also ease of execution. There's one thing, the announcements are great, the policies are great, even the framework, but then when we actually go into the countries, let's say we're awarded a tender, we now are interacting with your local agencies. We're interacting with the guys on the ground. And sometimes what you are saying does not match with what they are doing. I mean, we have had issues with tax policy specifically. I mean, I'll give an example in Jamaica. It wasn't their fault. They had a change recently, but modules were tax-free, but there's a policy where where you brought in the whole apparatus of renewable energy, you would get a concession. However, when you actually went to the customs officer is, no, this part is not renewable. This bit is not renewable. Therefore, we are going to charge you tax on that bit, which then led us to have to go back to the Minister of Finance with the Minister of Energy to send a directive down to the customs groups. That is friction, that's hurdles, and that is risk. Another specific example is in terms of just permitting. So, we've had permits go missing, and then we've had permits come back in the door. So again, having that control of your agencies and the actual technocrats that you're dealing with is really, really critical. I'm just giving you the private sector's perspective. Private sector, we want a return on our capital, we want comfort, and also, I guess, I know we're short on time, but what I would suggest, being from a small island developing state, I am from Jamaica, shape your policy and your choice of investors as to what kind of investor you want. There are investors who are looking for short-term returns. There are investors who are willing to be with you for the long term. There are investors who also take socioeconomic elements, which you talk about. You talk about lifting people out of poverty, reducing dependence on certain types of fuel, but that may not be what you get depending on how you shape the response that you're looking for. I may just pause there because I know we're short on time. I have so much more to say to the ministers, but time is money, execution, and giving a very clear direction to private sector.
Thank you very much. But time's not too short here because, I mean, it is in this session, but there's time to grab these various ministers in the hallways. But that's very practical, what you were saying, both on the permitting and unifying policies. Now we have 6 minutes to finish up, and then we'll bring forward our closing statement. We have 3 different speakers, so I'm going to ask them to be direct and to the point. Mr. Selwyn Hart is a special advisor to the Secretary General on Climate Action and the Just Energy Transition of the United Nations. And I know you're going to be addressing how the Antigua and Barbuda agenda per SIDS Abbas help bring greater coherence, alignment, and accountability to this support. But where really do the gaps remain? Selwyn's great to be back.
Thank you, John, and always a pleasure to be back, especially among friends. And this is the first time that I'm speaking. And on behalf of the Secretary General, Francesco, I just want to express our full and unconditional support to Irina and your important work. And this meeting, of course, is taking place at a moment of geopolitical and economic uncertainty and transformation, and also at a time when the climate crisis is accelerating. And it's extremely encouraging and welcome to see and hear that ministers from the most vulnerable countries on this planet remain committed to climate action and the energy transition, and that you're not distracted, but you recognize that acting on climate, accelerating the pace of the energy transition is in your domestic interest. And we have a responsibility as the international community to support these objectives. From today's discussions, it is absolutely clear that a lack of ambition is not the challenge in small island developing states. Rather, it's the enabling conditions, both at the domestic and international level. The good news is that those challenges are well known and they are by no means insurmountable. And what I heard today was a focus on solutions. We know that capacity building, we need to ramp up capacity building across the board to support planning and the much needed policy and regulatory reforms. We know that aggregation works at the regional and sub-regional levels to deliver on scale and to get around the constraints of size, aggregation on procurement, project pipelines, etc. And we also know that we urgently require innovation in finance to reduce some of the challenges, including the high cost of capital. But what is absolutely missing and needed urgently is the avoidance of the fragmentation and the lack of coordination among international partners. This remains a concern. And speaking as the United Nations, we're owning up to this reality. We need much better coordination and collaboration among bilaterals, the UN system, the climate funds, and the MDBs. I've heard all of you, all of the international partners speak of their own initiatives. We need to ask ourselves, how are we working together to deliver the scale and the impact that is urgently needed? Within the UN system, we have recognized this as an obstacle, and we are working to get our own house in order. At COP30, the Secretary General, he instructed or directed or asked our colleagues from UNDP to build on the architecture of the climate promise to support the delivery and implementation of the NDCs from the developing countries. And we're really working hard within the UN system to ensure that we have our house in order so that we can deliver coordinated UN system-wide support, working with IRENA, working with the EU, working with New Zealand, working with the UAE, so that we can get this coordination. So you can be assured that the UN system will stand with you. A clean energy future is in the national strategic and economic interests of all small island developing states. It will boost competitiveness, and it will ensure that growth in these countries is resilient and inclusive. And again, you can be assured that we are here with you. IRENA, you can be assured that we will work with you and other international partners. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. It's good to see you again, and very clear. I appreciate those applause, but we have I've got a 5-minute window here before we bring our closing speakers to wrap. So I'd like to invite the European Union and the UNDP in particular to focus on the collaboration with SIDS and the regional collaboration that Mr. Hart brought to the fore with ARENA, help to translate the priorities for Antigua and Barbuda, for example, that agenda for SIDS into concrete implementation at the national level, of course, but also the regional level as well. I'd like to invite Ambassador Lucy Berger, representing the European Commission here as the EU ambassador to the UAE. Thanks very much for stepping in, too.
Thank you, Excellencies and distinguished delegates. Good afternoon. And first of all, I would like to apologize on behalf of our Director General for Energy, Tita Jul Jorgensen, who really wanted to be here, but due to force majeure, which could be associated with climate change in Brussels, she has not been able to join us. I hope she will join us by the opening of IRENA General Assembly tomorrow. From the previous speakers, I believe that the challenges faced by small islands to pursue their energy transition are very clear, starting with small economies of scale and grid stability, or the need for mix of technologies and storage. Let me first actually welcome the encouraging results of the IRENA SIDS Lighthouses initiative, since we are in the IRENA context, which was founded in 2014 and which is helping SIDS to define and implement their nationally determined contributions, promote renewable energy, and facilitate stronger private sector engagement. I'm highlighting this because it is very clear, and it has been also emphasized here, that we need stronger partnerships in order to actually bridge the gap when it comes to renewable energy deployment in small island developing states. But also we need improved data-driven decision-making and promoting socio-economic benefits, including job creation and gender equality. We also need to find a way to address the SIDS call for increased access to funding and resources, which we also heard here today, and the need to accelerate action towards energy transition while balancing security-related aspects. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let me first actually share some EU experience in this field, because we also have small islands. Many EU islands still depend on expensive fossil fuel imports despite having access to renewable energy sources. On 21st to 22nd of May 2026, the Clean Energy for EU Islands Forum 2026 will focus on balancing environmental, economic and social priorities at the implementation or project phase for islands aiming to achieve 100% renewable energy. Over the last years, our work has highlighted the complex governance of the energy transition on EU islands and has made proof of many opportunities for achieving energy resilience and security. This includes leveraging abundant renewables for self-sufficiency, diversifying energy sources, modernizing grids with storage, ensuring climate resilience of infrastructure, boosting energy efficiency, and fostering international partnerships for finance and clean tech, all while managing intermittency and limited economies of scale, requiring integrated policies and political will to shift from costly fossil fuels reliance to stable, green energy systems. When it comes to our cooperation with SIDS, while every island or archipelago on this planet has its own background, many islands face similar challenges and opportunities. Based on its own experience, the EU therefore intends to accompany the SIDS energy transition by introducing European technologies, enhancing skills, and enabling pooling regional investment for larger scale projects with a focus on storage, human capacity, and technology access. Let me highlight also the potential of our global gateway strategy for utility-scale energy generation and storage projects. For instance, energy actions in 13 Caribbean countries, ranging from project development and de-risking to infrastructure works and mobilization of finance. Another example is the Hydrogen de France renewable project in Barbados. The project launched by Prime Minister Motley and President von der Leyen on 19 February 2025 will introduce for the first time in the Caribbean green hydrogen technology to address storage constraints, which is a structural weakness of Barbados' energy metrics. We are working closely with European energy industry to make the region better known, while also exposing EU technology and expertise to Caribbean decision makers. On grid integration and interconnection, we are conducting a pre-feasibility study looking at interconnection options, and we are doing a grid assessment for integration of solar PV systems in the Eastern Caribbean. And other sectors of cooperation include energy efficiency, demand management, sector integration, and setting the right regulatory framework in a holistic approach beyond the power sector. Relying in the short run solely on fossil fuels provides immediate energy, but at high cost, price volatility, and climate risk. In the long term, transitioning to renewables and installing storage capacity reduces import dependence, stabilizes prices, fosters local jobs, and builds climate resilience, inherently improving long-term security. The EU stands ready to continue its cooperation with the small island development states to maximize local renewable energy potential, modernize grids, and strengthen their resilience, enhance energy efficiency, and optimize demand management, and support work towards necessary regulatory reform. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Berger. And I forgot to mention you're the permanent representative to ARENA, since your knowledge clearly stood out in your remarks there for the Director General as well. Mr. Riyad Medeb, Director of the Sustainable Energy Hub for the UNDP, please. You'll be aware of the time as well, and then I'll call for the closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excellencies, and thank you, Francesco. What we heard today said that the just energy transition in SIDS is not only a sectoral reform, it's a macroeconomic stability, it is a sovereignty, it is a resilience building. But for moving from imported fossil fuel to renewable is not simply about emissions, colleagues. It's about reducing exposure to price shocks, freeing fiscal space, keeping light when storm hits. But yet too many SIDS, the transition is slowed not by technology, by capital cost, by project readiness, by perceived risk. But the real question is, what does it take to scale investment pathway in SIDS quickly, credibly, and at a level that matches the urgencies? And you ask us to focus on the cooperation, and this is what we were doing with the users. We have developed a strategy on energy transition in response to Abbas. And let me highlight the three main points that we are implementing this strategy. First of all, scaling the de-risking at the center of the SIDS energy finance. And this is what we're currently doing in Maldives by developing their guarantee schemes for the SIDS and accelerating the energy transition. And in emerging and developing economies, the cost of capital is 2-3 times higher than advanced economies. So in small island system, the premium is very decisive. And scaling guarantees and concessional financing alongside that standardized PPA is essential. So what you said, representative from Solico Energy, it exists, and there is a response already in Maldives. Second point, my friend Selwyn mentioned the importance of aggregation. Accessing to aggregation necessitates also accessing to data and geospatial data for being able to identify the potential of investment. And we have developed with AOSIS the SIDS data platform with 6,000 indicators with geospatial data, but AI analysis geospatial data that will help you to analyze and accelerate the aggregation and the energy transition. And finally, the energy transition is not only an opportunity to improve the country's economic and fiscal resilience. It's more than that. What the Special Representative of Secretary General Selwyn said, SIDS have done more than most to lead on ambition. The world now needs to match that leadership with finance that fit island state realities and partnership that delivered at speed and at scale. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ria, for being very direct there as well. I wanted to offer the Minister of Energy from Papua New Guinea to deliver his remarks. You want to do it from the seat here due to time, or would you like to take the podium? You have the floor for the closing remarks of 4 minutes or less. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. John Teftarius. Francesca La Camera, Director General, IRENA. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as we close this SIDS Ministerial, I wish to express my sincere appreciation to all ministers and partners and all participants for your engagement and constructive contributions. Today's discussions have clearly demonstrated both the ambitions of small island developing states and the very real challenges we continue to face in advancing the energy transition. Across all regions, there has been a clear and unified message. SIDS are making progress, but the pace and scale of implementation must increase if we are to close persistent energy security gaps and meet our national commitments and global targets. Allow me to share reflection on behalf of the government of Papua New Guinea. Papua New Guinea is taking deliberate steps to move from commitment to implementation. In September, our National Energy Authority launched 5 renewable energy policies covering hydropower, solar, wind, bioenergy, and geothermal energy. These policies are designed to unlock Papua New Guinea's significant renewable resources potential while ensuring projects are cost-effective, aligned with international standards, and responsive to national development priorities. At the core of these reforms is the energy access. PNG has set a clear target to achieve 78% electricity access by 2030, with a strong focus on rural and remote communities. Renewable energy, particularly decentralized solutions, will be central to delivering social and economic benefits, improving livelihoods, and reducing emissions. These policies also support energy efficiency and aim to reduce PNG's carbon footprint by 50% by 2030. In November, Papua New Guinea FEDA strengthened its enabling environment through the launch of a new off-grid regulation to accelerate energy access and renewable mini-grid deployment. These frameworks bring clarity for developers, confidence for investors, and protection for consumers. It allows government to meet its commitment on both energy access and climate change, while creating the conditions needed to scale private sector participation. At the same time, PNG is finalizing its revised national determined contribution and completing its energy transition assessment, which will lay the groundwork for the country's first transition plan. Together, these instruments will help translate ambition into a coherent, bankable investment pipeline. Excellencies, as the chair of the upcoming 6th Pacific Regional Energy and Transport Ministers meeting, Papua New Guinea recognizes that the expertise of the Pacific mirrors the priorities articulated today by SIDS across regions, underscoring our shared challenges and common direction. First, investment mobilization remains critical. Ministers underscored the need for integrated system-wide planning that links policy, regulation, and project preparations. Investors require clarity, predictability, and scale, and governments must continue strengthening the enabling environment to reduce risk and attract long-term capital. Second, power system modernization is essential. Grid resilience, firming capacity storage, digitalization, and climate resilient infrastructure are no longer optional. They are prerequisites for reliable renewable-based systems in island context. Third, energy access and equity must remain central. Decentralized systems, mini-grid, and clean cooking solutions are not transitional measures. They are essential pathways to include development, particularly for rural and remote communities. Fourth, ministers highlighted the importance of regional cooperation and scale. Fragmented markets and small procurement volumes continue to increase costs and deter investments. Regional approaches such as pooled procurement, demand aggregation, and harmonized standards offer practical solutions to reduce costs, mitigate risks, and strengthen negotiating power. Finally, today's discussion reaffirmed that the partnerships must deliver results. Governments, regional organizations, utility development partners, and the private sector must work together in more coordinated and sustained ways. Frameworks such as the SIDS Lighthouse Initiative and the Antigua and Barbuda Agenda for SIDS provide important platforms to align and maintain momentum. Ladies and gentlemen, Collectively, the responsibility now resets us to move decisively from dialogue to delivery, strengthening coordination, engaging partners around clear priorities, and ensuring that today's discussions translate into tangible outcomes on the ground. As I close, I wish to thank IRENA for convening this ministerial, which reaffirmed a long-standing truth that through cooperation, coordination, and commitment, small island development states will continue to lead by example in the global energy transition. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Minister Isiamo. Thank you, and best of luck on the collaboration with New Zealand on the event that's going to be taking place and the leadership you shared. Deputy Minister Soto, thank you very much. Francesco, excellent opening remarks, and I know you've been working very hard with the team to drive the SIDS initiative. We appreciate your extra time here. The next session will be starting in 6 minutes, so we're going to have to clear the room pretty quickly. I was going to offer a big photo opportunity, but on the positive side, been involved with ARENA many, many years. We had 28 speakers in 90 minutes. That's voices were heard, which we greatly appreciate. Give a nice round of applause for the organizers. I appreciate the help, Nadia, and your team for putting this together. Thanks.
Yeah.